I'm a huge fan of horror, but when it comes to haunts, I'm a baby. There's a huge difference between watching something on screen and being immersed in it. And why do people like me find haunts so intimidating and terrifying? One, it's because you can control horror. You can control what you want to watch. You can control the subgenre. You can even control what the film's about by reading the blurb. Doesn't mean it's good, but you can control that kind of stuff. When you walk into a haunt, everything is out of your control. You have no idea what's coming. And secondly, and most important, you have to put your faith and rely on a complete stranger to keep you safe. Meet Haunt, a 2019 horror film written and directed by Scott Beck and Brian Woods. In Haunt, Katie Stevens, who you may recognize from The Bold Type and Polaroid, plays Harper, a girl who goes out to a party with her friends on Halloween. Her group decides to get into the spirit of things by attending a haunt that is off the beaten track. But what happens when things soon turn violent, and who's really behind the mask? Sounds very typical, right? It actually reminds me of a 2018 horror film called Extremity. In this film, a woman faces her fears by going into an extreme haunt. Much like in this film Haunt, Harper has to face her inner demons. And obviously this is a huge structure that horror movies face, you know, their past, you know, joining in with their present. It's not even a horror thing, it's just like films. Majority of films have this kind of storyline, but I find it can be particularly really overemphasized in horror movies. You think of movies like Crawl or Lights Out, that really they rely on their skills or something from their childhood. They have to face their fears at the end. And I don't think it's a bad thing. I just think it's quite a little bit forced in this film, but it also gives it a little bit of depth, because this film is what I like to call a stereotypical post-2000s scare horror. I know, horror, scary, wow, groundbreaking. But the thing is, a lot of horror movies these days use stirring vibes and haunting atmospheres to create an uneasy feeling, where other films, they're just out to scare you. It doesn't matter about introducing an idea, they just want to scare you. And I call that like post-2000s scare horror, because there's movies that are really here to shape you and make you cry and make you feel something. And there's other films, the objective, and there's nothing wrong with this, is just to scare you. This is definitely one of those films, and I think you need to go in with that in mind. And if that's something you don't want to see, you will not like this film. But if that's something you're down to have fun with, enjoy. The film's very purpose is to make your skin crawl and make you jump, which I did. But it may surprise you with the level that the filmmakers go to in this film in order to make you scared or feel uneasy. It really takes it up a notch, which I was not expecting. Some of the shots are extremely intense and the visuals are remarkable. So once you get over the scare horror cheese factor with the teenagers in the haunt, it can be particularly thrilling. I should mention, it's really important where you watch these kind of films. And I know not everyone agrees with this, but you know, let me know down in the comments. I've had a few comments about how I grade films sometimes if I had a bad experience at the cinema and I'm like, oh, I need to go back and see it again because I feel like I was kind of out of the zone because people were talking around me. People don't like that. They say that you shouldn't be grading films on how you were at the time. It should be how the film is, which I can completely agree. But when a film is scary, it really does play into your setting, because I mean, people who watch Exorcist as a child might be scared out of their minds, and then as an adult in a different location, a different setting, when their brain is different, it's gonna be a different effect. And that's how horror works sometimes, and that's just the plain fact of it. So I really do wanna mention that I watched this film in bed, alone, with headphones on in the middle of the night. So I feel like that definitely added to the tension and pressure. But in saying that, I have not had a VOD horror movie, or really even just a movie that is just trying to scare you the whole time, that post-2000s scare movie. I haven't had a film like that really amp up the tension as much as this film did. I jumped, I screamed, the tension was unbearable in moments. Again, might have to do with the headphones, but I think that this film is pretty successful in what it set out to achieve. This film is what Escape Room should have been. It focuses on the scares and the forefront situation, but it also ties the character's backstory in lightly. Although it does feel forced in some parts, what I liked about it is it isn't a huge part of the film, so it doesn't affect the pace. But let's talk about the way the film looks. Let's talk about the visuals and the set and the costume design. I love this poster, and I love it because it reflects exactly what the film is. It gives you the exact feel. I know it sounds very basic, very stupid, but a lot of films, especially lower budget films that come straight out to VOD, we get tricked by seeing these amazing posters that really set a film up to feel a certain way when it completely doesn't, because it doesn't take as much money and budget to make a poster. The film is highly graded to appear modern, slick, and defined, and the pops of color from the masks throughout the haunt are eye-catching and remain the focus. This is interesting when you consider that most films where things go wrong in tight spaces reflect more of a gritty, dirty texture. While the haunt location does seem broken down, it appears tidy and alluring, and it's interesting to see this kind of switch up. As I've mentioned throughout this review, the film does have a huge slice of cheese. I mean, teenagers running away from danger on Halloween. Can't get more cliche than that. And I don't have much to say in the defense of this. Just go in knowing that the filmmaker's intent was to scare you or at least creep you out. And if that doesn't sound like it will work for you, don't bother, because it will not be your kind of film. Haunt is a film that lays out all of its cards on the table, so you know exactly what you're gonna get when you walk in, but you get that plus some, because there are some extreme moments. I'm gonna give this film a 7 out of 10. That might seem a little bit high to you guys, but I actually really enjoyed it, and it is what it is, you know? And I really enjoyed it for that. I'm also gonna give it a 7 for scare, because it made me jump, it made me scream. Films don't do that a lot, so that's my personal scare score, guys, just me. But don't worry, I'm gonna give it a 5 for originality. This is how I feel about Haunt. Did you guys like it? Did you guys not like it? I'm sure a lot of you guys didn't like this film. But if you're into something that will be like a fun scare film, definitely recommend it. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do. We're about to kick off with 31 Days of Horror, so you want to be subscribed because I have a lot of reviews coming your way. Hope you guys are having a great day. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up. It helps me out, and I'll talk to you guys very soon. Stay spooky. Bye.